Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fittest. My guest today is Meg. Oh my gosh, I am going to do the same thing that, how do you pronounce your last name?
That's fine. I said to Cuba, I said, now I'm going to have to start telling people how to pronounce my last name. So we've made it a double barrel. So we've got my name and then his name so that he can use my name when he competes because nobody can pronounce his name. So basically it's Sylvester Cielen.
Cielen. Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I never would have guessed. I never would have guessed that. And it was so funny because I went to when he was on John Jewett's podcast because I was like, oh, John will introduce him and then I'll know how to say it. And then John goes, oh, I don't know how to say your name. And he was like, forget about it. Doesn't matter. That wasn't helpful.
Yeah. So CIE in Polish is ch.
What's the background? What is his background?
So he's Polish.
Polish.
Yeah, which is Eastern Europe.
Okay.
It's below Russia, next to Ukraine, next to Germany. It's like in the middle.
It's a whole different world. It is a whole different world out there. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited to have you on. When I reached out to you, I was already had like my brain was spinning about all the stuff that I wanted to talk to you about. One of the things that I think is super important with this podcast and what I like to do is not just talk to the pros in the industry, but highlight the women who are showcasing information that you can follow as far as what to do year round. And we're definitely going to talk about off season and touch on your, go into your background and everything. But I love the information that you are presenting on Instagram and your YouTube with training videos and providing progress and talking about it. And I just think that is priceless information. So thank you so much for that, for sharing.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm glad that it's something that people can learn from.
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I just like to showcase the women that are putting that information out there. So people aren't just following influencers that it's just all willy-nilly and not making a whole lot of sense with the purpose of training and the purpose.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think from when I first started, a lot of things is probably from when I first started bodybuilding, because I haven't been doing it for a long time, but I've been doing it for long enough that I've seen a massive shift in the fitness industry of how things are very different. And prior to bodybuilding, I was still in elite sport. So I've obviously seen a massive shift in what it's about. So I think it's important for kind of competitors or first timers or people that are just getting into it to understand exactly what the process could look like, and people can learn from all the different avenues that obviously people put out. So that's kind of content that I felt it was needed, because not many women, and especially when I first started, I thought there's so many different things that I wish that I would have known when I first started, that like people can still make the mistakes. I mean, I urge my clients to make mistakes so that they can learn from it, but at least there's some content there for them to know what it's like to be a bodybuilder, or what happens behind the scenes.
Yeah, well, like you said, prior to you had people like you and Renee, and many of the men are doing it now too, which is just as helpful, I think, to follow their journeys, because it was all highlight reels and all you saw was one size of person year round for the most part. You didn't really see the nitty gritty of the off season. And really utilizing social media for what it more than what you could just like highlight your life, but to showcase everything.
Yeah, I think it's very much a selling platform, and it became too selly that people need to go down the information route to be able to just show it. It's like, I remember when I first started competing, and a lot of the women that were at the top at the time, I remember a lady that I was really drawn to was Latoria Watts, and what an incredible physique. But like now she kind of shows the different change that she's had post bodybuilding and whatnot. But like back in the day when she was competing at her peak, there was not really that kind of showing of off season and the different kind of changes within the body. It was always this is the Olympia, even if we were in like March or June, which is no offense to her. I absolutely love her, but that was the norm. So I think that people, and now that there's so many more people getting into it, I think that we just have to show all of it for them to understand that it is okay to be able to go through all these different phases.
Yeah, and you understand when you talk to some of the women who are starting to get into competing and they think that you look like that. I mean, Alex was talking about how she's like, I don't feel like I even look like very much of a bodybuilder in my off season just because.
Oh, she does. She came. We all had a meeting yesterday. It's the first time they've actually done one in the UK, which was, it was really nice actually. All the pros were able to go to a meeting. We were able to meet the international director of the IFBB, kind of the guy who runs the Two Bros, which is our kind of federation within the IFBB over in the UK, Ian, and one of the head judges, Jack Sullivan. So it was really nice to have that feel. And I can tell you for a fact, she definitely looks like she competes. She looks fantastic. She made some great progress. I'm excited to see how this year will pan out for her, because I think that she'll do really well.
Yeah, we're our own worst critics, of course, so she's looking at herself, but yeah, that off-season physique a lot of times with women just looks very fluffy and not necessarily the bubbliness that like the guys will have. And so it's, if you get into your head about it, she has amazing mental fortitude to just be like, this is what I have to do and I don't care what anybody thinks or what I look like.
Yeah.
It's pretty
again another lady who's come from high level sport prior to bodybuilding. I think having that mindset and the kind of resilience that it takes to be a young person and not be a young person, because we both didn't have very normal childhoods. We couldn't go out drinking, etc., etc. There was time for it, but because she was in elite sport, I was in elite sport, you have that mindset already, so it just doesn't matter what anybody else is doing or saying.
Well, Meg, you did a perfect segue there for us to talk a little bit about, your childhood and athletics. So what did you start out doing, and then how did you get into bodybuilding?
So initially I was a gymnast, just a kind of national level gymnast, never international level gymnast. And I loved it. And I was very good at it, very explosive, but I'm not naturally very flexible. So they were also doing at the same time in the same place, grassroots for a sport called diving, which obviously diving from a platform, not scuba diving. And the guy who was heading up that just said, I think that you transfer over to diving really nicely. So I was 7 at the time. So that's when I first started with that. Obviously started on the GB squad literally about 3 months after I'd qualified with that. Started doing obviously junior kind of international competitions all around the world, and then progressed on to being obviously a senior athlete when I was 12, and competed as a senior athlete for 9 years. I went to the Olympics, I went to the World Championships. So yeah,
wow,
was a different life, but it definitely set things up for bodybuilding, the mindset, everything. It's the same kind of, I don't know how to explain it. It's just something that you do.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was a swimmer, and we, when we were when we were swimming, we swim practice was 3 hours, and you really only had time for, when you have a sport, you only have time for your sport and your schoolwork and to go to bed. So yeah, so it's a totally different, and your social life is with the people who are in your sport, really.
Yeah, it's you're just different. You're different to normal females, different to normal kind of, oh, thank you. I'm actually filming for YouTube, so I hope that you don't mind that things are getting filmed.
Totally fine.
Ed's just brought me my food as well, so that's really nice. But I totally agree. The kind of mindset that you have from a young age with that, I think that for you as well, the whole bodybuilding thing, it's easy to just cross correlate everything. Everything's just about that now, rather than it being about swimming. So it's very much the same. And then the reason I went into bodybuilding was because I injured my shoulder a few times, and I used to do the 10-meter platform. And obviously there's only one other event for a female when it comes to diving, and that's the kind of 3 meters low one that actually springs around.
Yeah.
And because of how small I am, naturally, like petite lady, to be able to like move that springboard, I just didn't have the weight to be able to do that. So I just thought to myself, if I'm not going to be as good as what I was when I was doing the 10-meter platform, there's no point in me doing something that I'm just not going to be as good at, because there's just no point for it. So I finished diving, started going to the gym, and the guy who ran the gym and was the manager at the gym told me that I should try bodybuilding. So I then went into bodybuilding.
How old were you then when that little switch happened?
I was 22 when I finished diving, and then I was into my 23rd year when I switched over to bodybuilding.
Okay. And how many years has it been now? How old are you now?
So I'm 27.
Okay.
So not too long. I first competed in the September of 2016. And I've done 11 shows.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot. That's actually a lot.
Yeah, quite a few shows. I've only done 4 pro shows,
okay,
and the rest of them were amateur shows before that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So have you had someone to guide you this whole time, or did you have some stumbling years?
Stumbling years. I like that. I would like to say that there was a few stumbling years. Yeah. So when I first started in 2016, the guy who actually ran the gym, who had said it'd be good for me to bodybuild, he wasn't really my coach, but he just helped me with like the diet to get to a bodybuilding competition. And I was really thankful for that, because he's such an amazing guy. I then transferred over to a different coach, and things went really well. Did really well with everything. And then obviously I changed gyms, because I was going to train with one of my friends one day, and she's like, oh, we should train at this gym. And I was like, oh, it's really close to me. I didn't even know about it. So I went there, and that was actually Cuba's gym that he owned. And then obviously, as things progressed with myself and Cuba, it became very apparent that it'd be a good idea if obviously he was to coach me. And then that's how that kind of happened. But I guess we could say that together we've had stumbling years where it's kind of still getting to know bodybuilding and getting to know the training and kind of the things that work really well for us. But like the stumbling years have been the years that have kind of made what we have now, that obviously helps us progress super well.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting what you had said about, you do want to have your mistakes, but with people like you putting this information out there, with coaches who really know how to utilize not just prep, but the off season, which is actually more important. I mean, obviously that's when the growing happens. I think that totally lost my, I'm so sorry, I totally lost
it happens it happens all the time to me.
I think that I don't remember what I was going to say.
what I think what you was going to say is that I think it's good that people like myself and other people in the industry that are coaches, great athletes, are posting more about the fact that all the work is done in the off season.
Yeah.
And the difference of what off season looks like compared to a competition prep. Because if you think about it, back in the day, a few years ago, well, even if we go back like 5 years ago,
Yes.
the things that you saw was everyone in their competition peak. Nobody else really spoke about their journey. So all you ever really saw were these genetic elite 1% genetic people that posted about their competition. Yes, they could compete every single year because their body grew even in like the small, like the biggest deficit that you could probably be. They were probably still progressing, still getting better. They could have the short little off season and they could go straight back into that competing season because they were the 1%. They were the only people that really spoke about it. And I'm not saying that I'm not genetic elite, because I think that as a professional athlete, someone that's achieved that pro status, you have to have a level of the look being like genetically nice. So I think that having now the people that are kind of like myself, or other people that are even better at it than me, because I'm not saying that I'm a great pro or anything. I can't really say that until I actually do anything in terms of a placing. But when it comes to everybody else now, we're all talking about it. Everybody shows their journey. Everybody shows the different parts that are important, because I can't compete every single year, because I won't make any progress. If I went from competing last year in November, had a short little off season, started prep again in March to compete later this year, I'd probably either look the same or look worse, because I won't have had that time to recover, then grow, and then go into an off season. Because I have a lot of growing to do. Like, I have a lot of growing to do. Like, there's other people that don't, and they don't need to take that amount of time off. But like, a lot of us that are still trying to climb up really do.
Yeah. Yeah. And a lot of times, you see the pros that are competing on the Olympic level, and they only have minor tweaks to do. So they don't have to have these more extensive off seasons. But like you had said, you're looking to add on quite a bit of tissue during this off season so that it brings an improvement to the stage.
Yeah, definitely. I think the one kind of thing that I've really liked over this past year is a lot of the top pros have started doing a little bit more kind of content in regards to YouTube, etc. I really like watching Nick Walker, because obviously this time that he's won the he didn't win the Olympia, he won the Arnold's, and then he placed really well at the Olympia, so he doesn't need to qualify himself again this year to be able to do the Olympia. So he's now going through his first ever off season, and he shared his thoughts along the way of how he's a little bit not bored, but probably a little bit bored of kind of being in that kind of surplus, doing that training, rather than that like little excited feeling that you get when you build up to a competition. So it's really been nice to see that mindset of someone on a social platform that's been so open about it, because at the end of the day, these people that weren't before probably didn't really feel like they needed to, which is totally fine. But obviously they did do a long off season because they didn't have to qualify themselves for these different competitions throughout the year. And that's why they bring such a fantastic package at the end of the year, because they're fresh, they're ready to go. They've done that qualification, so they don't have to do that kind of 3-month little off season and then go straight back into a little prep. So I think it's just been nice to be able to see someone that's at such a high level probably have the little bit of like down days about the way that he feels, or down days of feeling a little bit kind of bigger and just wanting to get into that prep process and having to go through that off-season phase. And I know that he's a man, but it's been nice to see that, I think.
Yeah, it probably is more oh my gosh, I'm just losing my mind today trying to talk. I'm so sorry.
Don't worry.
I was going to ask you, so with your shows that you did, were you reversing off them, like doing a correct reverse off and then going into a build like from the very beginning? Or is that like, when did you have a good like first reverse, let's say, because that is something that has only become popular over the last couple of years as well, people talking about this. And when you think about it, I'm sure there's been a lot who are like, why am I struggling so hard to try to get ready for this show? Because they didn't have a proper reverse and a proper off season. So I'm just trying to emphasize the importance of that, but I'm curious about your history.
Yeah. So the first show that I ever did in 2016, in one whole week, I put on 10 kilograms, which I believe in America would be 21 pounds.
Yeah,
22.
it's 2.2. It's times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it basically, it was a lot of weight. And I just literally couldn't stop eating. Like it was horrendous. But I couldn't stop eating that much that like my jaw was hurting. Like I was just eating all the time. And obviously I knew that wasn't right. And I knew that the kind of mindset that I'd had post that, and kind of the food focus that I'd had, I just thought that I was not normal to have those thoughts and feelings. Whereas you are normal to have those thoughts and feelings. It's just about the way that you control them. And I think having people that you can talk to about it and people that understand it, which I probably could have spoken to all of my friends and they would have understood it. They probably would have supported me, but I just felt like I couldn't. And then the year after went much better. Not perfect, definitely a lot more cheat meals than what I probably should have, but definitely so much better in the fact that I built up weight slowly. I definitely got way too fat that off season, that things couldn't have, because I was so fat and so, sorry, I shouldn't use the word fat because I wasn't, but I was definitely a lot more kind of, my body fat was way too high for me to be super productive with anything. Like I'd gas out in sets really well, really high. So it wasn't the best, but it was definitely better. And then 2018, that was the year that I started getting coached by Cuba, and obviously being around him and having each other to talk to, because I know that he went through the same thing as me, but with the majority of his preps prior, with that kind of not being able to stop eating and whatnot. And we both won our pro status in Alicante. We both enjoyed some great foods in Alicante, but after that we got into like a real reverse diet because we knew that next step up into the pro league, we needed to kind of make sure that it went well. And there were so many things in that off season that could have been so much better, that we've learned from, that we have done and kind of made better these last 2 times. But that was probably the first time that had that like real good reverse out. So after like 2 seasons was the one that went really well.
Do you think it's a maturity, or it's like a mindset, like a goal focus? Like or having that support system, or maybe all of those things?
Yeah, I think all of those things, but I don't like to bash anybody, but I think the support from my coach and kind of the approach that the coaches had at that time, it's like each week I would have lower calories foods than what I've ever had since, but then I'd be allowed to have a free meal each Friday. And I think that built up that really bad kind of food focus in my mind, that, or if I get through these 5 days, I can have that meal. What am I going to have? Searching everywhere and anywhere of what I'm going to be eating. And it just created that really negative mindset. Whereas the way that I kind of do prep now and have done preps since, with kind of my second coach and then with Cuba, my mindset's been much better. So I think that was the biggest learning curve. And the fact that I think this is going to sound really bad, but when you start to take it more seriously.
Yeah.
And when something becomes a little bit more, this is not just like a hobby anymore. This is not just something that's just there. This is now something that is my livelihood. This is something that I want to do for a really long time. And if I'm going to do it, I need to do it right, because I think everybody has that kind of view when they first start, that's how it is per show, because you'd see like the Ronnie Coleman, you'd see Jay Cutler, and you'd see the pictures of them being like literally blown up straight away per show from eating all the foods, etc. But like us females, we can't do that. Men can eat a lot more than what we can because they have a lot more muscle tissue. For them to be like out of shape, it takes a lot because of how much muscle tissue they do have, those people at kind of top level. So like we can't compare ourselves to that. We have to be a little bit different with that, really sensible. And I'm not saying don't have a cheat meal. I'm not saying don't enjoy your food per show, but just be sensible. Like don't eat until you feel sick, because it's just going to create a really bad runway for your off season with kind of the mindset with that.
Do you think that part of the sacrifice is looking at food more as fuel than as like I remember Missy Truscott talking about I said, what happened? You had like 3 years where she just totally blew up with her physique. And she said, that's when I finally took every day seriously. And she said, I stopped looking for this mouth pleasure with food and was looking at it as fuel. And I think sometimes people think that's its own disordered eating, but I think you have to have that sort of discipline in order to, like you said, your mind was like, you know what, this isn't a hobby anymore. This is my livelihood. This is what I want to do, what I want to be. And I got to take all the steps, right?
Yeah, I think it's really nice for someone that's at such a high level to be open and honest about something like that with what she said, because lots of people would say, yeah, I've been 100% since I first started, but like you say, the maturity within the sport comes with time. And I think that kind of, okay, this is not just something that I'm doing that's kind of, it's not a leisure thing anymore. It's not a social thing anymore. It's something that I want to be my career. I want to be my job, that I want to be able to do things with that, plus being able to compete as well. So you do have to take every day seriously. And I'm not saying that like amateurs and people that have just started are going to have that mindset straight away, because they probably won't. And I don't think that we can put pressure on them to be that way. We can't put pressure on them to be perfect, to have great progressive sessions all the time. We can't expect them to not want to go and eat 15 burgers and chips on a weekend and have a drink here and there, because they've not found their feet yet with what they want to do within it. And I think that it does come with time. There's some people that are literally like that from the off, and that's amazing, but for like the masses, for most people, it does come with time.
Yeah, it is. It's been very interesting and really fun for me to interview such a wide variety of female
Levels.
humans. Yeah. And it's like, you just never know what built that person, you know. And like you said, they could be someone who has been structured and very strict and very type A from the very beginning, or coming from a background of eating disorders, or you know, or just a lot of stumbling years before, you know, maybe really good genetics carried them a lot of the way. It just, I love hearing the stories. I just love learning from each person what their particular story was and what's driving them. So
yeah, I think it's nice that all these people at these different levels have the same kind of switch, and have that same kind of drive for it. Like I'm not a good, like I'm the bottom of the pecking line for a pro at the moment. Like I really am. I mean, I'll work my bum off to be able to try and get up there, but I think it's so nice and so refreshing to hear that these people just have the same thoughts and opinions with things. I think it's amazing. Makes you see them more as like a human, rather than something like, whoa, it's Messi Triscott.
I know I still have the whoa moments though. It's like, yeah, you're like, these are celebrities. These are craziness.
But they are still people that literally just want to smash out their training, smash out their food, and just do really well on stage and live a normal life.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I don't know if it's a normal life, but it's really incredible. Absolutely.
I think it's our version of normal.
Yes.
And I think it's becoming a little bit more accepted within society now, which is nice.
Yeah.
But I don't think that we'll ever be like normal people. I just think that when you have that mindset, when you do the things that you do, I don't think that that'll ever leave.
Yeah. Well, this is what the community is for, right? So that, because whatever you surround yourself with as your normal becomes your normal. So when you have this community of people that know what needs to be done in order to get to where you want to be, then it's a lot easier for that to be your normal life, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
So I want to talk to you a little bit about UK training. So I have to say that my my first taste of, you know, I started following JP and Luke Sando and you know, James Hollingshead, and the training has always been fascinating to watch, because the grinder sets leave nothing on the table, and you train the same way, Meg.
I think like there's still the community within the UK that love their kind of high volume, that there's still a lot of diversity
Okay.
across the UK of people that like different things. And I have nothing against people doing different styles of training, because at the end of the day, that's what they enjoy. And you can't put anyone down for anything that they enjoy, because at the end of the day, that's how they're going to make the most progress. If they're happy, if they're enjoying it, that's how they're going to make the most progress. But yeah, we are very much so the progressive overload style of training. And I know that, like, for the masses in the US, because one of my friends actually lives over there now, Ria Gale, another figure pro. And she was saying how different it is when she like goes to the gym and sees the other ladies that are obviously in her class training. She just says it's so different. She says it's amazing to see, and amazing to see that like all these different things can make people progress in a way that makes their physique look fantastic. She says, but it's just so different, the training over there. So I'm actually going to see her in May, because she's going to be in Texas then. So I'm actually gonna go and see her at the end of May. So I think it'll be nice to be able to see just a different perspective on things from the other kind of females within the sport that obviously are just so good, because for the most part, the people that are really great within the figure class are the people that live in the US. They're the people that kind of do come in the top 8, the top 10, etc. Like there's so many different figure pros across the world, but you do find that those are the people that tend to get into the top. I know that there's a lot of people that are starting to push that now, but it's just nice to see that it's just so different. And
Yeah.
like, maybe I'd make great progress doing these other things, but I wouldn't enjoy it. I've tried it and I just wouldn't enjoy it. So I like doing the things and kind of training the way that I do, because I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with you 100% that whatever you can adhere to is what is going to get you where you need to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing that I have always found fascinating too, when I figure out some people talk about their training styles, and it's like, you never would guess that doing what they're doing would get the physique that, because it'll, like you said, there's certain training styles that we know about, and then there's others that you're like, I don't know who taught you that, but it's obviously working for you because you stepped on the Olympia stage or whatever. Yeah.
We can't put anybody down. We can't judge anything, because lots of different things just work for lots of different people, and it's always down to their kind of wants and needs and enjoyment that's gonna take them the furthest.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long have you been logbooking then?
That's funny. I actually started logbooking when I was 8 years old.
What?
Yeah. So I as in terms of logging training, the way that I feel, how dives went in the session, how many dives I've done in a session. That started when I was 8. And then I've always carried a book with me when I've trained, even when I didn't train very well, and even when I didn't really know too much what I was doing with things. I've always, like, without even trying to do the progressive overload, it's always been that, because I've always wanted to try and beat what I did last time. But no, yeah, I've literally started when I was 8, and it's just always gone through with my bodybuilding as well.
I think that's really awesome. I know some people will say like their logbook is in their head, and some people really need to have written pen to paper, and
Yeah.
I know, sometimes using Excel or in their notes or whatever. I always write my workouts in my notes on my phone. So
I think in a way, even people that don't think that they do it probably do, especially those that follow like a structured training program, even if they don't have a physical logbook, because of the mindset that you have when you're a competitor of always wanting to be better. I think that you will always go into the gym and try to be better each time that you do it. So yeah, that's my kind of view on it. And I think people do get a bit bogged down with it. Like, they probably take it a little bit too seriously and get really annoyed when things aren't going really well. But that's why you have to be a little bit more diverse. You have to be a little bit like, right, this just doesn't feel right today.
yeah.
I probably need to do something different, because it just doesn't feel right for me. If I can go back to that next session and it's feeling great, fantastic. But if I just need to do something completely different, and that's all that matters. Something that is gonna look and feel good for you as well.
Yeah. I love it for the problem solving aspect, because you can, like you said, when something isn't right, then you kind of go, okay, what was off? Was it, was it this phase of my menstrual cycle, or oh yeah, I didn't get enough sleep last night, or maybe I didn't get enough water in before you know what I mean? So when I think like there's always a reason. And when you track your training like that, then you can kind of figure out what else you're not doing quite right that's contributing to that.
Yeah, I agree totally. Me and Kuba have like check-in sheets that we have for our clients that literally track all of that in their days for them to try, and it's more like critical thinking. Why is something not working for me? Oh yeah, that's why. And there's so many different things that actually flag up to you. More stress, something going on at home. There's so many different things that can create this kind of negative thing to happen. So I think being able to, for me personally, being able to track it just allows me to be a little bit more like, oh yeah, that's why.
Yeah.
Whereas if I didn't, it'd be more of like oh yeah, and it's kind of, yeah, more like a guess game rather than it just being there on a piece of paper. But again, people are different, people track it different, people don't want to do that. And again, whatever they enjoy is going to make them the best person that they could be.
Yeah. I like the idea of having control. You know what I mean? And so you're like, well, because when your training is off, then you're like, well, I have control of these variables and I didn't control them. And so you can kind of figure out that way. That's what I like, because it's like, I have control of my life. I have control over these variables, or stress help.
Yeah, I think stress is probably the biggest killer of progress. Unhappiness and stress is the biggest killer of progress when it comes to bodybuilding. I think that when you can be a little bit more proactive to make sure that those things kind of are minimized, I think that that's when people can be the most progressive. So it doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as those things are minimized and you're enjoying it, you're all good.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that enjoying this training is like key for, it's probably where like you would be training and doing this regardless of if it was, displayed on social media, or even if you were going to be stepping on stage. It sounds like that's just sort of in your blood to be doing a sport and working really hard at it and trying to be better at it.
Yeah, I think that's where it breaks down for a lot of people. I think that's when people either stop competing, is when either they lose that love or they just didn't have that love for training initially. Because that's where you spend the majority of your time. You get like 30 minutes on stage, that's it, at your competitions. The rest of your time of your hard work is you either eating a meal or being in the gym, whether that be doing some form of cardio or your training. So you have to have that love for that there. Otherwise, what's the point in doing it? Because you're just going to hate 99% of your journey.
Yeah. And I think there's a lot of women that get caught up in the end game or the end goal. And it's the journey along the way that's going to not just get you there, but keep you there, or keep you going to the next. So if you don't love the training, if you don't love your diet, I think I always struggled with the diet part because I thought I had to always have a really clean diet. And if that doesn't work for you, then you have to figure out a way to make it work for you, whether it's just having a little bit more freedom. Or I know John and Renee talk a lot about doing more macro matching in their off season. Yeah. To make it more
a little bit more enjoyable. Yeah. I think that it's great to have a diet plan, but I think being able to understand that diet plan is something that lots of people, that's what breaks down for people. Like, I know that I've worked with people in the past that just don't understand the fact that if they've got something like 100 grams of rice, they could have the equivalent in potatoes and it's going to make no difference. Obviously, when you're coming close to a competition, do you want that element of kind of changing things around? Probably not. You want to keep things nice and consistent to make sure that there's no bloating, to make sure that digestion stays okay, to make sure that there's kind of, you're in control of every variable that you can for that kind of competition. But when it comes to the off season, like, you have scope to be able to have a little bit of, like, gluten-free pasta is just the same as rice because it's rice based. There's so many different things that you can switch around. that you can make it enjoyable and you don't feel like you're forever on a prep, which is what people tend to think. I'm not bothered, I'll eat the same things every day. It makes no difference to me. But if I wanted to and I wanted to change it, I'd know how to do it and it'd be okay.
Yeah. The funny thing is, I was just thinking about this the other day, is when you're going through your life and all the things that you're trying to accomplish and the goals that you're trying to set. I don't know if anybody who ever looked back on their life and was like, oh, I really missed out on eating this thing or that thing. Like, we're not really thinking about food as our memories.
Yeah, I think that also comes back to what you said earlier, with the whole looking at food as something that's there to fuel your body rather than it being anything else. And I think that's what a lot of normal people really struggle with, because they think that the only time they can have an enjoyable social time is either when they're having a drink or when they're having food. Yeah, that's to be enjoyed when you're in a social occasion, but enjoy the company and enjoy the social time being with people rather than focusing on the fact that it's the food, because that's not what's giving you enjoyment. And if you look for food for enjoyment, you're never going to be happy, because it literally fills a happy void for 5 minutes and then it's gone again.
Yeah, this is something that I tell a lot of my lifestyle clients too. It's like, you have to enjoy the event. The event is what is special. Like you said, the people and everything else. And I mean, if there's particular food that you're not going to have anytime again that year or something like that, maybe that's something special to you. But even then, working things in with portion control and not overindulging, because then you're going back to what is emotionally attaching you to the food again, if you're using it to fill a void.
I agree. And if I look back at myself prior to bodybuilding and kind of at the first part of bodybuilding, I was very much like that. It's like, if I would have had my wedding day 4 years ago, I would have been thinking, oh my God, this is what I'm going to have for breakfast. Oh my God, this is how much food I'm going to be having when I'm eating my meal. And on the day of our wedding, because there's so many people that we had there was so much time between the starter, main and dessert, that I was thinking, me 5 years ago would have been so angry that I'm not getting these things straight away when I want them. And they're the things that I've kind of dreamed about eating when I've kind of made all these decisions of what it is that people can eat. That's what I would have been like, but I was just there enjoying the fact that everybody was there. It was just so nice. So yeah, I think that is a mindset it's hard to change, but it's good to change.
Oh, it's totally worth changing. I know I struggled with it off and on my whole life with different different food relationships, and getting therapy, talking to a counselor about that, and then working through it is like, it's freedom. I know any woman who has struggled with some sort of a past eating disorder and has been able to work through it, it's freeing. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think the pressure that kind of either social media or just normal kind of general world things, whether that be watching a TV, film, anything, because there's that kind of pressure on women to either look a certain way or be a certain way. And same for males as well, not just females. But I think that because of that kind of push for it, and as we've obviously grown up, there's been more of that when it comes to social media, and it's just like more apparent, it's there in your face. I think that that's kind of what builds a lot of issues with women and men. But obviously, being a woman, I can talk from a woman's perspective. Just obviously for males, I can imagine it's very much the same. But like that, if my mum goes back to when she was a child, there was nothing of it.
Right.
Yeah, she was like an eating issue, things like that. It's not really something that people would ever talk about. There wasn't like that ever. There wasn't that stress and pressure and everything, but it is now, and that's just because of kind of the push that we've seen more through social media, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I think this is it's every day you open up your phone is an opportunity to figure out what you want to direct your attention to as well. And it goes back to what I had said before about the information that you're putting out, which is very real. And I love that people putting out all aspects of their life, not just here's a picture of me when I'm shredded on stage or from a photo shoot or whatever. So I appreciate that a lot.
Thank you. I think it's nice to be real. I think I think people can feel like they can connect with you and learn from you and understand you a little bit more, and it makes them feel a little bit more normal. Like, we're all weird. We all have weird thoughts. We all probably do weird things, but it's nice to know that other people are also a bit weird, or have their little different funny quirks that might link up with a quirk that you have. And I think that, like I say, because of this pressure and kind of perfectism that is promoted, even in the fitness industry, not so much now, but kind of before, I think having that little bit of a balance of people just being a little bit more normal is quite nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Meg, I wanted to look at your Instagram a second, because I wanted to look at your last, let's see here. Get this out of the way. I wanted to look at your last post here because I had a couple of questions, but let's pull this up a second.
That's fine.
Yeah. So first of all, tell us a little bit about where you are with your off season, because this says, what was this? Now I can't read because we're in there.
So basically, I started my off season in October. And obviously throughout that time, obviously the goal for this off season is to acquire or accrue as much muscle tissue as I possibly can, specifically from this shot that you just currently had up, the back shot, because there we go, we're now on my client. There you go, Graham. So specifically from my back shot, it's an area that still looked quite weak on stage from the level of density that I have. Like, there's a lot of thickness that I need to accrue. It's not so much the width anymore. It's more just the thickness there. And then like the thickness of me as a person, which obviously then comes through majoritively of the posterior, because obviously as a figure competitor, we're not having to do like a side chest. It doesn't really need to come from this perspective. It's more just here and through the kind of density that we get through our backs. So that's kind of the main goal. I don't like to get overly floppy in the off season in regards to my body composition. I think that my body composition and the way that I progress the best would be kind of the left. And when things start to get a little bit past the left, so what the initial picture was, that's when it's like, right, okay, it's time to take a little bit of a pullback to be able to get my body primed, ready to then be able to grow again. Because when I find that fitness levels go down, when I find that appetite is really low, I find that it affects my training, it affects my sleep, and those are the things that we need to be able to grow and develop. So once those things get to a point where like they're really shit, that's when obviously Kuba, my partner and my coach, will be like, right, okay, it is now time to really take it back so that we can have a really long progressive off season from kind of this point forwards. Like, Kuba doesn't want me to go into another diet phase until kind of probably the start of next year, where we do a little mini tidy up like this, maintain it up until prep, so that we can start prepping a really, really, really good spot, just so that we don't lose a lot of muscle tissue, B, have to go like ridiculously low with food that like prep food's going to be low. You're going to be talking like 1,000 calories when you get to some point, because that's just the norm for anybody. But the amount of time that you have to do that for can be minimized by just having a really good kind of off season. But yeah, that's where I am in my journey at the moment. The picture on the right, obviously now just to get this looking even bigger and kind of bubbly and large, ready for my competition next year.
So you had kind of a little bit of was it like a mini cut, or just
I'm not allowed to call it a mini cut. So yeah, it was a diet phase. It was a pullback from the food. Appetite was terrible. Body composition was getting a little bit floppy. My fitness levels within training was awful. So that's why we've obviously gone into this little phase. I think post an actual prep, you have to push the food a little bit higher. You obviously have to be super careful with reducing down the cardio, but kind of the level of body fat that you accrue per show is probably a little bit quicker than post like a mini diet, because you have to make sure that mindset's really okay as well. So that's why we've obviously gotten a little bit more floppy sooner than what you would post a mini diet in the off season, because we've had to push that food a little bit high post that like super diet phase to make sure that we can regain monthly female cycle, get kind of that in a good place to make sure that all of those levels are okay. Because again, as a female, yeah, we need a good level of testosterone, but we also need to make sure that we're having our female cycles so that estrogen, progesterone can all be in a good spot. Because without all of that, you'll not accrue any muscle tissue. For people that obviously aren't that genetic 1% elite that we were talking about before. So that's why Cuba likes to do this. And then now we will be nice, and Cuba will be nice and slow as he reverses me out. And yeah, we'll try and keep body composition in a really sensible spot for the rest of this year as we grow.
So you're looking at a time frame of maybe like 8 weeks that you aren't pushing food again, just to kind of dial things back a little bit. Is that about the time frame?
So this was 3 weeks.
This was 3, and then you're going to reverse out of it. So
yeah. So we're talking like a good 8-week window post this, where we will slowly take up the foods based upon the look, based upon the body weight, based upon how things are feeling as well. We'll just take it up nice and slowly, just to make sure that obviously we can take the calories high, because I can eat a lot of food. I don't struggle with my appetite. Prior to pulling my food down, I was actually on I think it's like 5,300 calories on my training days. I don't struggle with my appetite. I like to eat, and that's great because it just means that it can push me to grow some good muscle tissue. I think that when people struggle with the appetite, you get to a sticking point with it, I think, in terms of progression. So I'm lucky that I do have a good appetite, and I don't mind being a little bit less lean as well. I quite like it. I quite like having a jiggle everywhere.
This is a great look, though. My question was, did you have you had an imbalance? Was that
so that was me 12 months ago.
Was it a posing imbalance, or was it something that you had to correct as far as like
so this on my left side, you can see it really bad on my front shot here. I dislocated my shoulder twice.
Oh my word.
When I was diving. So we've done a lot of work on mobility and stability over the past 12 months to make me a little bit more balanced.
That is incredible. I was floored, and I thought, did she just manage that with her posing, or was this lot of work?
Yeah, it was a lot of work. Like, I never really used to be able to get great connection on that side either. So a lot of work's gone into that with the mobility stuff.
We got so many interruptions. Everybody's going to be like, this is the most jankety podcast. Twice I lose my train of thought. Oh my gosh. This is going back to the being real, right?
Yeah, you've got to be. I think people appreciate it so much more than things being perfect all the time.
Oh, I appreciate you giving me grace. I appreciate that very much. So you did a lot of mobility work, and what did you do to correct that? This was over how much time?
12 months.
Oh my word.
Yeah. So kind of internal, external rotation with TheraBands, lots of kind of, I don't really know how to do it without, I don't know how to do it without showing you. But lots of things to try and get me to be able to position my shoulder in anything. It's like before, I just had no control over it. Like, my shoulder was rolling forwards and backwards when I was trying to keep it solid. Even when I was posing, it was like very much there. Whereas you go to like someone that's a physio, which I have done for so long, and just been like, I can't, and they'd be like, oh, you've got a tight pec. So they were like, you've got a tight pec. I was like, I've not got a tight pec, because I don't really do too much work within my chest, and I stretch a lot. So then Cuba and the kind of things that he's learned through, obviously working with some great people, Jordan Shallow being one of them, who's literally the mobility god.
Yeah.
And then obviously working with Luke from Nursery Fitness as well, and kind of the things that he's learned through that, and then obviously applied with me as well. Honestly, it's been a godsend.
Yeah. Is that a lot of like scapula control and that type of thing?
Yeah. So a lot of scapular kind of protraction and retraction work that I do to be able to obviously get it in a good spot. But yeah, it's nice and kind of level now, which is good.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Because most people would just be like, oh, well, you need to go get, chiro or get some Graston done or something like that. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's actually a weakness imbalance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to eat. Is that okay?
Totally.
It's the life of a bodybuilder.
You had said something else about the growing phase, about your mini cut. Oh, I was going to say, how long did it take you from your last show to get up to weight? Because that's something that's changed also. People used to think, oh, you have to kind of, I think it was more of a slow reverse out from, a show. And then, especially if you're very food focused, like a lot of people are, it's a lot easier to just kind of get yourself back up to weight within, I would say 2 weeks is kind of quick, but maybe like 4. So about how long did it take you?
So we look for a good kind of 5 to 10% increase pretty soonish. For the majority of the female competitors that we work in, including obviously me, because Kuba works with me. And then that's kind of keeps you in a good spot to be able to, again, regain the monthly cycle, etc. And then from there, I would just look for a really small increase week to week. So that initial bump up with food, see how that takes you. And then if obviously you need to add more, just little by little, and not being like don't be overly cautious with it really, because per show, it's important that you probably eat more on-plan foods than off-plan foods, because that's how your body's going to be responsive, and it's so sensitive per show. So if you can have kind of the more structured foods and have a bit of the structured foods rather than people going like ridiculously silly with their off plans, I think that's when you see the mindset being much better, and you also see obviously a better progression with all of that as well.
Yeah, that was something that Missy Truscott had said to me too, when she was talking about having cravings and that type of thing. And she said, I always remind myself, I haven't even eaten all my meals yet. Like, wait until the day, I've had all my meals before I start thinking about, because oftentimes when you want to eat something and you're craving something, you can sort of suppress that by eating the meal that you're supposed to be eating.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Making it taste nice as well, I think per show is a big one, because you get to a point when you're in such low foods that you just like, oh, let's just get it over and done with, because whatever I do is not going to make me full. And then you per show and you're like, I want to be full now, because now's the time to be full. So making it taste nice as well is just makes it more enjoyable, reduces those cravings.
Yeah. And if you're eating pretty healthy year round, then when you start seasoning food that's like, pretty plain, it will taste good to you. It tastes good with just seasonings. And I think, if you're somebody that is like you're eating fried foods all the time, it's like, okay, you're not going to be able to mirror that, but you can get some very good taste from seasonings.
100% can. And there's so many of the low like calorie ones. I know in America, Kuba's one of his clients. He's from, he's actually from England, but he lives over in the States. The Flavor God ones.
Yes.
Oh my God, they're unreal. They're amazing. But like, I don't overly season my foods. I don't overly use a lot of sweeteners, but like a little bit of it is not going to do anything. It just makes it taste good. But those Flavor God ones are absolutely unbelievable. Unbelievable. We don't have anything like that in the UK. It's terrible. Like, we have your standard ones that you can buy in the supermarket, but they don't really think about it being low calorie. Like, there's a lot of them that don't have any, but like all the different ones that taste like something that you can go and get from a restaurant, like a paella or something like that. There's all these different seasonings that this place has, and you've literally got like zero of anything in there, so it's great.
Yes. Meg wants a sponsorship from Flavor God.
Their products are great.
They can probably ship to the UK.
Probably the guy that obviously Kuba works with, there's things that he can't get over in the States.
Yeah.
From like the supermarkets that's obviously different in the UK. So we'll send him some stuff and then he gives us, it's like a goodie bag.
That's pretty awesome. You guys are on the food exchange program, like
Yeah,
the
basically.
international food exchange program.
You don't get the best chocolate in the world in the States called Galaxy. Oh, it's amazing. So when someone's in the States and they can't get it, it's like, Bria, I will take her some chocolate.
Yes.
When I go to see her, because there's just things that you can't get over there that we can, yeah.
Rhea, I actually interviewed her on the podcast a while back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she's a beautiful person. Absolutely.
She's amazing. We've known each other for 13 years.
Oh, wow. Wow. So is it like a small area in the UK? Do you all know each other? No.
No. Me and Rhea both dived.
Oh.
Yeah. And we went to university together. And we both went into bodybuilding at a similar time as well. So she competed the year before me, and then I was like, oh, that looks fun. Let's go to the gym.
What's your affiliation with Jordan Peters?
So I'm sponsored by Jordan and Corinne, trained by JP.
Okay.
Obviously we have got the membership site that's got all of the information on there. All of the kind of pros, all of the amateurs that are on the team post their log every day. All the information about anything to do with their bodybuilding journey is on there. It's a really great platform. I was on it before I was one of their athletes. Yes. And it's where I learned a lot of my information for coaching, training, etc. Obviously, Cuba's been a massive help with that one as well, with my coaching and training and whatnot. But you can never have enough knowledge. So I'm such a geek. I'm really sorry. But that's where I learned a lot of my things on there. It's a phenomenal site. And then obviously they've now progressed on to doing the clothing. They've been doing that for a long time, but kind of the supplements has been over the past kind of 3 to 4 years as well. So obviously we're all sponsored by the whole thing.
Yeah.
So the site, the clothing and the nutrition side as well, which is amazing.
That's really awesome. That's really awesome.
Yeah, he's such a great guy, and she is such a lovely lady. He came to our wedding. We invited Corinne as well, but she had a wedding that got cancelled because of COVID the year before, and it was the same date, so she couldn't come. But it was amazing to have Jordan there. He's a really, really, really lovely character.
Yeah. And he always talks about his mom. And so, any guy that's got a close relationship with his mom has got to be a teddy bear at heart. So, yeah. Well, why don't we, I'm going to wrap this up with do you have time for a couple of just more fun questions?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So what is your favorite and your least favorite thing about social media?
My favorite thing is the way that you connect with people all over the world. I think it's amazing. I think it's great. You get to know people before you go somewhere. My least favorite thing is the fact that it's there. Because there's so many negative things that can come from it. The way that someone talks to someone on the platform could be conveyed in a different way, and they don't have a conversation. People don't have conversations anymore. The fact that it's there and people are on it all the time, and you're not having that social interaction with them because they're literally constantly on their phone. There's so many things I could say about social media. And the way that people just promote their best bits.
Yeah.
I hate that. I think be a real person, because at the end of the day, someone's going to meet you at some point. So you might as well be you. Otherwise,
yeah,
people are just going to think, well, that's not what you got there.
Yeah. When you tell people, you'll be like, oh, I met Deborah. She was a jerk to me at first, but then.
But like, don't speak to her. She's not nice.
It flies off the handle. Just don't piss her off.
Hey, it's a female thing. It's all right. We're all stubborn. It's a good thing and a bad thing.
Blame it on hormones.
That's, we can put it down to anything.
What is your what is your biggest gym pet peeve?
Oh, there's two. Can I do two?
Yeah.
Either when people leave their weights on a machine,
Yes.
especially when there's people that are like regular gym goers. People don't want to be doing 5 plates a side on a leg press. Some people just do one. So be nice and take the weights off for someone else. It's kind of gym etiquette, I think we could call it. And I hate it when people are sat on their phone, sat on a machine. I just think, get off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go to the toilet and do your texting or go again. They're my two.
Especially when you need to use it and you're like waiting and they're just texting in between sets and stuff, or not in between sets. Yeah. Those are good ones. Those are very, very good ones. Do you guys, oh, you do have I was going to ask if you have any pets, but you have a dog, don't you? I heard him.
They came in earlier and he's just been barking. They'll be sat outside of my room because they don't really leave my side.
Aww.
But yeah, we have 2 dogs. One is a Mastiff, and the other one is a Bulldog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She looks a little bit like a pit bull, but she is a Bulldog.
Okay.
We're not allowed to have pit bulls in the UK. They're beautiful dogs.
Oh.
Whereas obviously you can in the US.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're a banned dog in the UK.
Oh my goodness. I follow one pit bull on Instagram. It's honestly one of my favorite accounts because they just make her name is Smuckers. So Smucky, this is my shout out to Smucky the pit bull. She's so cute, and they put like little hats on her and stuff.
I have to look at her because I love it. Cuba thinks I'm strange because when I go on my Instagram, you know, when you go on the reels, like all of his will be like bodybuilding things. Mine are literally dogs after dogs after dogs after dogs.
I knew that's where you were going with that. I know that's what my daughter and I, we're like, look at this bunny video because we have bunnies. So we're just like, we're always sending each other animal. That's what all my reels are too.
That's amazing.
I don't think that I loved animals nearly as much. That's something that social media did for me, was made me realize how much animals have all these human characteristics, because people post all these amazing videos of their animals acting like people. It's crazy.
Yeah, they all have a real personality.
Yeah.
Both of mine are so different. The girl is so erratic. She's angry all the time. The boy, he's just so dopey. So dopey.
These aren't like your personalities, like their parents.
No. I would say they probably get a little bit from us. Yeah. I'm definitely the dopey one sometimes.
No.
A little bit, yeah. Everybody would agree. There's definitely certain things that not, but sometimes, yeah, the blonde comes out.
I was gonna say Meg has her blonde moments.
Yeah, she does every day.
Oh my goodness. You know what I'm going to work on after we're done here is how to count in the times.
We had Luke Miller and his wife stay with us last week.
Yeah.
And Cuba said to him, "Oh, we're going to the gym at 7." And they were like, 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. Like, well, you'd call it 1900 if it was p.m. You were like, no, that's just an English thing. Yeah, we're taught a 24-hour clock at school when we first obviously start at school. So we that's what we always do. A 6 o'clock is always AM. 1800 is always PM.
You know, I might invest in one of those because I keep doing these international podcasts, and then I won't mess up the time zones and stuff as much as if I know how to count the time.
The majority of Europe do the 24-hour.
Yeah. Speaking of food, what's your favorite cheat meal?
I like sushi. But the way that we have sushi is quite lean. So we don't have a lot of the like mayo, etc. that's added to it. So it's not really like a massive cheat meal, but I do like a burger.
Yeah.
I also want to try barbecue food in the US because it was actually from I guess it was like a day in the life video that Renee and John did. And me and Cuba sat there and he went, they're going to a barbecue, like what? Like, so in the UK, basically, if you were going to a barbecue, it's like it's like an outdoor grill.
Okay.
Everybody like goes and makes a burger on there, they'll put it in a bun, like it's a social occasion, a barbecue.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's a cuisine in the US.
Yeah.
So I was saying to Rhea, I want to go and experience what it is because it's like, whoa, that's very different.
Well, that'll be exciting because you said you're going to be here in May and you're going to Texas.
Yeah.
So that'll be the place to have barbecue for sure.
Yeah, that's what she said, because that's where Renee and John live, isn't it, in Texas?
Yeah.
And they'd gone somewhere walking. I sound like such a fangirl. It was actually, I really liked the thing that they did, and they went to a barbecue, and I was like, oh, that's strange, but I must try.
They're fun to watch though. I just love them. I've known John for a very long time. He kind of coached me a little bit. He was always there when I had coaching questions when I was learning how to coach. So he's a massive help for me. Oh. And Renee is just a doll. So did you get a call?
I did, yeah, but I don't know what I'm doing because I don't. How do I get back onto where I was? Oh no. I'm not good with technology, you know.
No, me either.
Oh,
you weren't gone here at all, so.
Oh, yeah. It was just on the screen. I couldn't see anything. But yeah, I did get a call, and I don't know who it was, so it doesn't matter.
Well, we're almost done here. I just wanted to ask you if you had any. she takes a bite. Any final messages that you wanted to share with the women that are listening? If you are
not someone that's at the top of the pyramid and you've got a lot of work to be able to get to the top, take the time to be able to grow, because there's lots of things that you can do to rush the process, and it's not worth it. Take your time, enjoy an off season, eat your food, do hard training, and bring something different every single year. I am someone that is not genetically, I've got good genetics that grow, yeah, but I'm not genetically, and it's going to take me time to get to where I want to be. But time is something that you do have the essence of. Don't risk your health for it.
Yeah. Nobody wins life by getting to the end first, right? So you got to enjoy it.
Totally.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Meg, well, this was a pleasure. I knew it was going to be awesome even before I got angry at you.
It's okay. Everybody gets angry at me. It's fine.
Like, I know who Meg is. She's my punching bag in the UK.
Yeah, there we go. Every time you want to be angry, just drop me a message. It's fine.
Oh, I'm going to spend my whole life trying to make up for this now.
It's fine, don't worry.
So Meg, where can people find you if they want to follow your journey or connect with you for coaching?
So if you want to follow me, obviously follow me on Instagram. My handle is at Alycia Sylvester. It's spelled, the middle bit is spelled Alycia. I think that people would know how to spell the Meg and Sylvester there, so that's fine. If you want anything from me, just drop me a message. Always open to questions. And also through Instagram, just drop me a message if you'd ever want to get coached by me as well. Thank you for that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks for listening and watching to another episode of the Women's Fittest. You can find me on Instagram at buffcake22. You can follow the podcast at the Women's Fittest and listen to wherever you find your podcast platform. And to remember that healthy looks different on everybody. Have a great day.